Hey, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. On this channel, we talk a lot about e-commerce, Shopify, crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, you name it. And really my goal here is just to kind of demystify this process for you in understanding how to get something out there for other people to buy, to experience, to receive on their doorstep as a really cool package, right? And today we're talking about basically how do you start a Shopify store, but sort of the basic broad level strokes. So this isn't gonna be like a technical, oh, you gotta do this, you gotta do that in ScreenFlow. I'm more so like, what are the major steps that you need to go through in order to launch a new Shopify store? And we're getting into it right now. So Shopify is an amazing platform. I think it's great in terms of all the different ways in which you can power an online store and make it so easy to be able to do e-commerce nowadays. And when I was just getting started, like there's not a lot of tools like this out there. I remember back in the early days when you really did have to like code yourself and setting up a website. So it's grown so much. And you can obviously see that in general when it comes to Amazon and Etsy and all these major other stores as well when it comes to general e-commerce. But for you, setting up an e-commerce store can be a big, scary, unknown kind of process. And I kind of want to talk about some of the major steps that you're going to have to go through in order to get this thing up and running. And let's just get into it. Okay, so the first step that you're going to want to have is just an idea of what you want your store to be like, to look like, and also to be centered around. So this goes beyond just having like obviously the idea of what it is you're gonna sell. I'm gonna assume that you already have that. You've watched some of my videos on prototyping and sort of coming up with a new product idea that way. I'm also gonna assume that you have a little bit of sense of like who you are making this store for, and you have the products that you're interested in selling, okay? So this goes beyond that. So if you already know that, the next things are really about branding, and that branding always starts with your domain name. So the first question is, do you have a domain name or do you not for this store? The second is, what are we gonna host this store on? So there are a lot of different ways out there. You can obviously go with Shopify, which is the focus of today's video, but there are also other online store platforms. For example, you could do WordPress and WooCommerce. You could use Magento, you could use Wix, you could use, all these other tools, Squarespace, if you wanted to. So there are a lot of different ways in which you can actually start an online store. Today, we're talking more so about Shopify. So assuming that you have the domain name in mind, you then need to start the Shopify store. And that is literally as easy as going on to shopify.com. I'll include a link down below. You can really easily click. In addition, if you go through this link, there's also a free trial offer, I believe. And also, if you end up starting a store, it's a nice way to say thank you for the show. And it also will put all that money back into just making great videos for you. So if you go down below, click the Shopify link, you go there, you can literally just set up your online store in seconds and you're gonna get the bare bones functionality of what that's going to look like. So it's gonna be based on a subdomain, it's called, with Shopify. So it's gonna be something.shopify, right? But when you actually are able to claim your own domain name, you can then easily port that over. So you could have yourstore.com or whatever the name of your store is, and you can have that be the major destination site that people go to. So the first step, the first stage in this process is to go to that website, Shopify, to set up that store, to put in all the necessary information in order to get that up and running. And also, if you are deciding to purchase a domain name as well there, to get that done. So you wanna take out your notepad, you wanna take out a blank sheet of paper, just have a checkbox and be like, did I set up that store, yes or no, and then move on to the next portion of this video. So you got your store, which is exciting because you're taking action, you're doing cool stuff, right? You got this up and running. So the next thing that you're going to think about is branding, right? So you could do a lot of different stuff, but I'm going to make an argument that I think it's more important to start with branding, and it's also more exciting, and here's why. You could start to add products to your store and start to do all of that and start to do the copy and start to figure out what you're going to write on the website and like what are you going to fill with this about page or this contact page. You could do all of that, but it's not really that exciting. Like, let's be honest, it's kind of boring, right? So what's gonna be way more exciting is for you to actually decide what the look and the feel of the store is going to be. Because then this creation is coming out there in front of you. This is actually coming to life. You're breathing life into the store. So the next step is going to be to pick the theme of the actual Shopify store. So you think of the theme as almost like the skin, right? So if you get like a bare bones basic kind of a site, which you get normally with Shopify, the theme just kind of makes it look better. It's the look and the feel. To think of like an analogy, it's like just instead of just wearing clothes, you're wearing really nice different clothes that fit a certain style or a certain fashion, right? So you're not just wearing a shirt, you're wearing like a shirt that has a certain kind of cut or has a button down or something like that, right? Or is made out of a certain material. So you're gonna pick the theme. That could be a free theme. And you can also look within Shopify and you can see and choose from a couple of the themes there. If you're interested in really starting a whole online business and you really want to start an e-commerce business that goes years into the future, you're probably going to want to pick a theme from more of a premium marketplace. So I'm going to link down below to a premium marketplace that you can go and you can check out some really great different themes. Now, this is difficult to install sometimes. If you're not a technical person and like you want some help and you're like, I want a premium theme or I want someone to design the theme for me, and to really take charge of setting up this store for me, I do recommend reaching out to an expert. So this is a service that I provide as well. I'm not gonna provide this for everyone, but if you are interested in starting your own online store and you have larger aspirations as well behind just setting it up, you can always book a one-on-one coaching call with me at crowdcrux.com/coaching. You can talk a bit about your goals and whether or not I can help there, or I can give you a referral for someone who can set up this store for you. I do have to say one thing though, this is also something where when you're setting up a whole online store and the look and the feel and the design, and you really want someone to help you with this, you don't want to skimp on this. And this is because people a lot of times don't know what they're doing when it comes to coding and making changes, and then they make all these different changes that they really don't need to and just like hardwire the code into the store. And that's the absolute worst way to do it, obviously. So just to be aware of that, there are a lot of people out there that don't really know what they're doing. So either pick a free theme, pick a premium one, install that, and then all of a sudden you're gonna have a really nice looking store. And that's when I want to move into the next stage. So on your checkbox items, number one, you got the Shopify Rock functionality. Number two, you picked out the look and the feel, which is in line with your maybe your industry or what it is you're trying to sell, or the vibe you're trying to go for, whether that's something that's more feminine or something that's more elegant, luxury, modern, whatever kind of theme you're going for, whatever kind of vibe, you've picked that out, and that's step number two. Step number three is to begin to customize that theme and also to get into the nitty gritty of like the functionality that you want in the store. So whenever you pick, we'll just say like a premium theme, because that's usually what most of my clients are interested in. Whenever you pick a premium theme, you're then gonna have to customize that. And there are so many options to go through, right? There's so many things that you can do, so many functionalities you can turn on. There's the product page, there's the home page. There are all these different subsections, the specs, right? Everything that goes into an actual Shopify store, and the look and the feel. So the next step that I usually recommend for any beginner is to think about and to really get to know that theme. And one of the things that I love to do is just like create training videos to help other people understand the theme itself, right? So you want to kind of go through, understand the functionality that is available to you with this particular theme, understand when it comes to how you would make changes, get a sense of what you can turn on or turn off, how can you customize this if you like a certain look and feel and you can't figure out how to replicate that, understanding how to do that. So the next step in this process, after you have set up that theme in step number two, is to really begin to customize that and to get to know it super well. So anytime you want to make a change, you can go right in there, or you can have someone who's working with you easily do that, and they know the theme super well. That will save you so much time in the future. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So now it's like, all right, we got the store, we got it looking good, we understand, and we have the exact way that I want it to look. We understand the functionality that I can turn on and then I can turn off. We are making progress, my friend. This is really when we begin to assemble the nuts and bolts of the castle. Or if you're thinking like almost about like building a house, this is when you're getting into like the actual, stilts, and you're getting into all of the different drywall and the flooring, and you're really adding the core products that make up a house. Or you think of like a condo, right? There are all these little products, whether that's tiles or whether that's the way that this wall looks or what this is made out of, light fixtures, etc. You are adding in the products that make up the overall product, which is the online store, right? So you're then going to start to do things like adding in those product information, descriptions, inventory, photos. This is really when you or you're working with someone else will begin to do the copywriting for the store in terms of writing all this stuff out. What is included, what's not, what are your shipping policies, what are your return policies, what are some of the different things that you're going to need to include when it comes to collecting visitor information? What is the homepage going to look like? You're adding in images, you're changing colors, you're doing copywriting, you're deciding on key things like pricing or deals that you're going to run. This is when it really begins to come together, and when at the end of this process, you should be able to have someone who's like a random stranger help you out, or a friend or a family, and buy a product on the site and see whether or not it works. So typically this is going to be more of like, you're starting to see everything coming together. This thing is starting to look more like a house. If you're building a house, it's starting to look more like a house, right? Where the store is starting to look more like a traditional e-commerce store that you might imagine. And to me, this process is kind of ongoing. So for example, you might need to do things when it comes to logistics and fulfillment, understanding your inventory, understanding how you're going to be handling that once someone does make an order, how is it going to be shipped, how are you going to deal with all that stuff. This is that stage that is super critical that you get right, so that when you do turn on the store, you can process orders, you can ship those orders out, and you can begin building your brand. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. Now, what I'm about to mention runs counter to a lot of other people out there, so just be aware of that. The next part, or the next phase of this process, is to turn on the store. Now, everyone out there is going to be like, no, you shouldn't do that. You should first install integrations. You should first install apps. You should first optimize it. I'm not really a fan of doing that, and here's why. I think it's more important to get something out there quick. You gotta iterate. You're never going to, for example, come out with a full-fledged store and you never make changes to it. It's gonna be an ongoing work process, right? And you get it to the place where it's good enough, it works well, looks great, you get it out there, and you start interacting with the customer. And here's why. Once you start to do that, you're gonna start to realize, okay, this is the average order value that I'm getting. This is the number of products that people are buying usually. This is what my sales are like for this particular month. What you're doing is you're creating a benchmark, okay? A benchmark. The benchmark is something you're then going to judge other functionality improvements against. So for example, let's just say you have a benchmark of a certain order quantity, right? Like a $50 order quantity or whatever. You can then be like, okay, we're gonna go into the next stage, which I'm about to mention, and we're gonna start to install things like applications and integrations in order to try to improve the KPI, the key performance indicator of that benchmark. And let's just say we install something and all of a sudden it increases by 20%. Awesome, you had a benchmark, you did something, you created a test, and then you saw that the conversion rates or the amount that people ordered increased over time. So you saw that that had a positive effect on the store. If you did all that stuff and like included all the integrations or included all that stuff immediately before going live, you would have no benchmark. So you don't know if it's adding value or not. And you might be paying a bunch of money for all this stuff that you don't know whether or not it's actually helping you, right? So this is why I recommend this approach. Get something out there, ship fast, right? Get the store out there, create a benchmark, create some KPIs, begin to record those KPIs. And then if you're doing it yourself, you're working with someone else, then you begin to make changes. So changing up the sales page, the way that looks, or adding in free shipping, or different promos and deals, or changing up the layout if you want to create a landing page to send cold traffic to, or doing other things, right? With like A/B testing, other integrations maybe to go beyond increasing the order value, but to increase social proof and add comments to the page or Instagram mentions on that page in order to improve conversion rates on your actual Shopify store. So this makes so much sense to me, because then like every time that you make that little improvement or change, you can see, look, it increased things by 20% or 30%, or it had no effect, or it decreased, right? And it's a much more scientific process versus you just put all this stuff together and you hope it works, turn the thing on and you're like, well, I hope it's working, right? Because you have no benchmark. So that is really my next tip, is that after you have set this up and after you've created that benchmark, then to begin to play around with some of these different things in order to enhance your overall store. Now, the last thing that I want to mention in this video, and obviously this is just the broad strokes, the broad process, is that long-term, the success of your store depends on a few different things, but it's mainly about creating a funnel, right? You want to create a funnel of traffic from organic traffic and paid traffic into this store that people buy products, that you're always increasing your KPIs, and in addition, people are buying them again. You're getting repeat visitors, repeat customers, and they're recommending them to their friends. And if that happens, it's like things just grow organically. It's so much easier when that happens. And it's kind of like if you're like assembling a table, right? If you have a table that has 4 legs and only has 3 legs, it might tip over, right? And like if you have a table that maybe only has 3 legs and it's like positioned a certain way, it can work, but it's not gonna take up enough real estate as like a normal 4-legged table would, right? So you wanna think of it this way. And the greatest thing that you can do at this point in time, if you do have and you go through all of these stages, is to do an audit. And that could be by yourself and just starting to write down and think like, okay, how is the store doing? How does it look? What can we do? What could be a plan going forward, a marketing plan in the future that we can consider executing upon? Write out a plan. Or have someone like myself, have a coach, do an audit on your store and just go through it and tell you exactly what you need to be improving or what they see. Having a separate set of eyes is so important in every area in life. And it's why people like writers like myself will have editors, because for us to just have our own eyes on it is always gonna limit what we can create in the world. So that's my last step for you, is that once you go through this process that I just outlined step by step, then you need to either consult an expert in the same way that you might go to a doctor's appointment, or you might get a lawyer to review a contract of yours. You need to consult a coach or an expert to help you out and to provide suggestions. And then to create a plan of action where over the next year, this is the plan for the Shopify store. We're gonna be going through this phase, then this phase, and this phase. And at the end of this, we're gonna have this store of our dreams. Don't start with the store of your dreams, my friend, because if you do, it's gonna take you so long to actually get this thing out there. It's gonna take so many different iterations and you're not even live. And then you don't even know if the stuff that you are installing is gonna have a noticeable or a positive effect on your visitor flow and your traffic. Hope that was useful for you. Hope that you took away some value. Leave a comment down below if you did like this video and give me a thumbs up. Hope that you check out this YouTube channel for some of the other content that I got out there. Come subscribe if you want more content just like this. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. I'm on Instagram, folks. I'm on Spotify. I'm on Podcast Land when it comes to iTunes. I do this YouTube channel, obviously. I got my blog, crowdcrux.com. You can always book a coaching call, crowdcrux.com/coaching if you want to talk about Shopify and e-commerce. So much stuff, but I hope that this was useful and I will see you next time.